Welcome to the Wiregrass Wedding Collective podcast. We have the woman with the plan, Kimberly.
Hey.
We also have our poetic fine arts photographer, Courtney.
Hey guys.
And I'm the filmmaker photographer guy that has too much going on, Josh. We have a really good show lined up for you today. We're going to be talking about how wedding vendors can cope with the coronavirus situation. So we got a lot of different ideas and things like that. We're also going to talk about the ways that it's affected our businesses, our home life, just our everyday life kind of stuff. So stay tuned to that. We got that coming up. This past Saturday, I shot a live stream wedding, which was, I think it's the second one that I've done at this point. And there's a couple things that I wanted to talk about with you guys because it's totally different from anything that I've done before. One, it's like I'm so used to editing stuff. I'm used to like, okay, we pack up, we go home. I've got to back up all these files and all that kind of stuff. But when I got done with that wedding, it was the live stream only wedding. I was done. So I didn't have to edit. I didn't have to do anything. I walked away and I was completely done with the project. So that was a completely different thing that I've ever experienced before. I don't think there will be ever a situation for Courtney at least to be like, because like no matter what, it's not you're going to hand over all the files to the client right after you get done photographing a wedding. But Kim, like, do you follow up with anything like with clients and stuff like that after a wedding?
Absolutely. There's a lot of planning that covers that portion of things. So, as far as preserving the gown and then vendor thank you notes, depending on the package, of course, if they've booked, but just like there's things that they'll forget during the planning process that they want to make sure that are taken care of, it's the same for post. Just because wedding has come and gone does not mean everything's completely done. So yes, we love to follow up with them to make sure they're still staying on track with things, but that's normally only maybe a few weeks worth of post items that have to be checked off from this.
So yeah, that's a side of things that I've not thought about on the wedding planning side of stuff. So that's kind of cool, but it was the first time experiencing like I don't have anything else to do after this wedding. So that was kind of interesting. Like, put yourself in my shoes, Courtney. What would you think about that?
I mean, I feel like what you're talking about is a testament to what we're experiencing as far as the pandemic and how things are changing. And that so many of these weddings have had to go to just live streaming, and it's affecting everybody and everything. And so I just can't even imagine, like, thankfully for me, I've still been able to, before we went in the shelter in place, shoot a couple of things. And actually my brides got their galleries delivered like 3 weeks early just because we're all in a shelter in place and I have a lot of editing done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't even imagine what you're going through and live streaming. It's kind of crazy. And I just never thought that we would be here with weddings.
Yeah, it's like live streaming was something that I've been considering on adding in the first place because I see it happening in the industry across the country already. But like, I think definitely in the situation that we're in as the world, let alone our nation, are going to a lot of live streaming type options and stuff. So it was interesting, like just looking back, this is almost going to just go right into our main topic kind of stuff. But I just want to kind of go over what happened this last Saturday to me, like just the different things going on. The first live stream wedding that I did, it was actually my sister-in-law's wedding. This was hours before our stay-at-home order went into place, which was on a Saturday. It was April 4th. 5 o'clock was when the stay-at-home order went into place, and they had their wedding ceremony at 3 o'clock. And so even at that time, the particular church that we were at was pretty strict on the 10 people or less kind of stuff. So the only family that she had there was her parents, and then there was a couple of officiants, the musician, myself, and a couple other people. So like literally just 10 people. What was cool about the live stream thing is like being able to offer that is that the people that can't be part of the wedding can still view it in the moment. So that was pretty cool to do that kind of stuff. So it was an opportunity to definitely kind of test the waters in a sense, but being able to do that for people too. And it was actually another wedding filmmaker friend, Evan Lanier. He's with Live More Weddings. He's based in Northern Alabama, and he referred this last Saturday's wedding to me. So that was awesome of that. But then it was just interesting because I never thought I'd be live streaming weddings, but I see the benefit of it now. So what's the kind of new stuff that's been going on with you guys this last week or so?
Well, just like so many of you, of course, we're still at home, and we're so from our perspective, we are able to take care of some of the pre-planning from home. We're able to use video conference channels and different things like that to still provide our services. Just like with everyone else, trying to plan for that on-site wedding day in person,
Hmm.
it's really tough right now. And our heart goes out to all of our couples and even the ones beyond, just all over the world right now, because we're all facing a really difficult time right now. And there's two sides to it as well. Just to kind of, Josh, I don't know where you're going to lead it to with some of these topics, but two sides to the coin as far as what the brides are thinking with this. Some, they've been engaged for so long that they're just ready to go ahead and let's be
Hmm.
officially married, let's celebrate later. And then on the other side of it, maybe there's some that have been engaged the same amount of time, but they're looking at it in a different perspective. They're like, no, well, we've waited this long, we absolutely do not want to get married without our friends and family
Hmm.
with us.
Yeah.
So there's no one right answer for everyone
Right.
because everyone's situation. And I think that's what's making it really difficult right now, is just maneuvering through these obstacles and figuring out a way that best suits their individual needs. But it's
Yeah, I would say, like, I would agree with that. All of my brides have actually chosen to keep their original dates and go ahead and get married, go through with the ceremony, and then just reschedule like the reception portion to a later date. And really, I guess, same for you, Kimberly, but just being there. Like, I found just being available and being willing to chat and talk through any questions they may have, and just kind of bounce things off of each other and help them to work through, what's the best possible solution in the midst of whatever we're dealing with.
Yeah, it's definitely like on our side of stuff too, caused conversations that just try to think outside the box. Like, what are some ways that we could still have a great day, have a great way to capture things and things like that. It really just boils down to what's important to you. Do you want all your family there, or friends and family, and all that kind of stuff, which is great. Like, there's nothing wrong with that answer, just like what you say, Kim. But also, like, there's others that are like, we just want to be married, and they just go ahead and go through with a wedding. And like I said, there's no wrong answer. It's just whatever's, or what Kim said too, is like, there's just no wrong answer with that kind of stuff. It's been almost like I haven't done like the actual numbers or math with the percentages of who's postponed or who's just gone ahead and done a wedding. But it feels like it's been almost like a 50-50 split. Some people are just, I've lost out on a few weddings, unfortunately, but then there's also ones that we've rescheduled for later in the year and even 2021. There's actually, sometimes I wonder, like, why am I doing this? But October 17th, for some reason, is like a crazy inquired date for our company. And we're already covering 3 weddings that day, but we've had to refer out like a number of times just to for other clients and stuff like that. So we're definitely seeing how the conversations go and all that kind of stuff, and the situations, and how like we're like, I know I could probably speak for everybody. It's like we never thought we'd have to have these kind of conversations with our clients. Like, yes, like tragedies come up, situations come up, but this just came out of nowhere, it felt like. And at least for the United States, like, it was going on in other parts of the world. Yeah, it's like I never thought I'd be having these kind of conversations with brides. And there's been a few, I'll be honest, like I've had tears after them. I'm like, because I care about these weddings, I care about these clients and stuff like that. You make these connections beforehand, and then you can't be part of the end result kind of stuff. So that, that's been tough at times
Absolutely.
too. How's your everyday routine been impacted? I know, Cordy, like you've been pretty busy with other businesses going on. Kim, I can't, like, it feels like we're almost in a similar boat. Like, we're trying to handle stuff um, with clients and stuff like that, but at the same time, it's like we're so used to appointments and stuff, and this goes across the board with all three of us or other vendors. Like, it felt like, or has felt like, business as usual for us as a family, because we're a homeschool family, home-based business at the moment. And like, it's just minus appointments and minus meetings, at least in person and stuff. So that's what it's been like for me. I'm about to finish on my editing backlog probably this week. And so I'll be looking for some more projects to do for sure.
Well, on our end of things, it's been a little bit of a reprieve from the go, go, go constantly. And as far as the bride appointments and things, like I was saying earlier, the video conferences, those have been really spaced out though. I made a post the other day about the extra planning time that we all have now because the majority of mine actually did end up postponing. I did have some that wanted to keep that date, but for the most part, they have postponed, which has given us a bit more of a planning curve there. And, because we were right there on the brink of their weddings are about to happen within a few weeks, everything's pretty much been done for their weddings anyway. So now it's just a waiting game. So on our end of things, the reprieve has been, well, there's been a little bit of free time there. So on my side of things, I'm really interested in marketing and innovation on the side of the business. So, my team and I have been working on building up the business in those aspects, and we're having a lot of fun with it right now. We've been able to get really creative with things, coming up with new ways to help our couples and others during this time, which I think that otherwise we wouldn't have had time to really dig deeper into the business and come out like we are with things, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, for
So
sure.
it's been positive in a way because we've been able to take a step back and really look at things from a different perspective as well. But we are really feeling the fact that, it's been almost over 6 weeks since we've been on site wedding day, and that's really started hitting us hard lately.
Yeah, I was like usually March and April and then October, November are my busiest months. And every weekend in March and April, I think there was like minus one weekend in April that we had booked up. And then June was going to be pretty much all packed up as far as weekends go too. And like this whole half the year is shifting ahead.
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
crazy because it's such a long span without anything.
hmm
April, just like you, Josh, April was our busiest month. And to have the actual wedding day come and go and, we're not there, it's like, it's really odd. It's a weird feeling.
Yeah, then on top of that, we as the collective, we were putting together a bridal event that we were super stoked about, but then we've had to postpone that. We have a tentative date at the moment. And I think, as a matter of fact, today in the state of Alabama, our governor is going to be hopefully giving us some more insight about what the reopening of the state looks like. Maybe, hopefully, we'll get some more details about what that will all take place, some more like dates of how we can start planning ahead for stuff and who can start doing what, who still can't do what, kind of stuff. All right, so since the recording of the podcast, the governor has come out with some updates that concerns us wedding vendors. For the most part, nothing has changed. It's a 10 people or less kind of situation. So that's what we have to deal with until May 15th, until some more information comes out. So that's what it's looking like as far as wedding vendors. I'll put a screenshot here up on the screen so that we can see those rules, and also leave a link down below in the video notes if you need some more resources to look up some more information about our current situation with groups of people. Those are the kind of things like that have been going on for sure, like this last few weeks in all our heads. It's been, as far as a vendor goes, like there's all these conversations that we're having with brides, clients, different aspects like that. Then like what like you were saying, a lot of stuff about your marketing kind of stuff. That's been something I've been trying to ramp up a bit more too. Even on, like, I've got a personal brand. I've been trying to build that up some more. Some other like kind of projects that I've been working on and still working on is like a documentary style capturing of how the Dothan area or Wiregrass area is treating the coronavirus. So we're like, I got a couple other guys that we're working on that with, just as either a group of us, or sometimes I say group, like it feels weird to say group, like it's not like this huge group, but just like two or three of us at a time, going out doing capturing different stuff. Like we'll come across things and we pretty much got a camera on us at all times. So we're just trying to get those raw moments, and also just a few interviews here and there about how different people are handling the coronavirus in general, just so that we have it for historical purposes. So that way we can have a way to look back and like, how did the Wiregrass treat the coronavirus? Like, I think that this is going to be a moment of history that we're going to see in history books potentially. Before we jump into today's topic, check out this episode's sponsor. That was Write My Name by Chapters, one of my personal favorite music artists for my wedding films. If you're a YouTuber looking for some great music selections, there is a link down below in the video notes so you can take advantage of a free trial. We're about to jump into our main topic and all that kind of stuff, and Courtney's dog is going off in the background, but that really just kind of shows the reality of how the coronavirus is treating us vendors. We have to work from home, and so when we have our home setups, we have animals, we have kids, families, all that kind of stuff, so anything could happen at any moment. But for the most part, like, what we want to talk about is how we as vendors, and maybe we've seen some other vendors come up with some pretty creative ideas of how to cope with, or just figure out different ways to market ourselves, handle certain situations. So that's going to be like the meat of what we're going to talk about for the rest of this podcast. What has been the most creative idea that you've come up with that you've not done before, or that you've kind of played with, but now that you're trying to actually implement it fully during this whole time? Myself, like as an example, live streaming, like that's something that I've thought about. That's something that I have, given consideration to add to part of the company. But being with a certain situation that we're going through with the coronavirus, like, it's actually kind of forced me to just go ahead and jump in and do it. And so that's been something that my company, just one of the things that for Evergreen Creative Company that we've put into place, because it's one of those situations to where it's not trying to take advantage of anything, but it's trying to add value to a service of what's going on, so that way we can take care of like a really big need for people. Like, for example, the first one that I did back on April 4th, my sister-in-law's wedding, none of her siblings were able to be there. So they were all at home watching the wedding. So it took care of a really big need for that family. And there's going to be so many similar situations like that. So I'm glad that I just took that plunge and just went ahead and did it, and just started offering that service, because I really see that being a potential win for everybody, whether it's a client or even for my business.
Well, I would say for me, like, a lot of it has actually been like the back end kind of running a business. I actually moved all of my stuff to like a management software this past few months, and I've been working on streamlining processes, client communication, just bettering the back end of business that most people don't see or hear about. It's something that really doesn't get talked about very much,
right? The
hard stuff. And then other than that, like, I've been looking at possibly doing mini sessions, which is something that I haven't done since my first or second year in business. Not for any particular reason. It's just I've been staying so busy for the last few years that there hasn't been time. So now through all of this, I've actually kind of gotten my thoughts together and getting ready to launch those as soon as we get out from under this shelter in place.
Yeah, it's such a good point, because like, as far as a wedding goes, most of the time there's going to be definitely more than 10 people at a time, like for a normal wedding before the coronavirus wedding kind of stuff. And so all these different ideas have come up with my own company too. Is like, I love elopement stuff. I like that a lot. So I'm planning on pushing that a bit more, especially once we find out what traveling can look like in the next few weeks or a couple months. I haven't pushed it too much yet, because like, I just don't know when we can start traveling again, going across state borders and all that kind of stuff. Like, when this all started, Florida was like locking down borders, like pulling people over, barricades, all this kind of stuff. So I'm like, I can't even go to Florida to a beach wedding at the moment if I wanted to. but yeah,
it's funny you say that, because like, full disclosure, like, I'm thriving with these small ceremonies. Like, I've shot like huge weddings for years, and I guess that's kind of more so what I'm known for than elopements and small ceremonies, but I'm thriving because I'm loving this. Yeah, it's just really intimate, and just really get to know the family and the couple even better than having a huge wedding. So.
Yeah, I love the idea. We did an elopement back in February. I think it was towards I'm trying to remember the date, but it was like mid-February. And it's not anything against any of the large wedding setups that we've done. Each wedding is great in its own way, but just as the personal preference and stuff, is that I absolutely love elopement type stuff. It's just, regardless of the wedding, I like to focus on the couple themselves anyways. And so when you take away some of the other stuff, you really get to focus in on that. And there's I don't know, just putting myself into the client's shoes, like, you don't have all these surroundings of these different elements going on. You're able to like kind of focus on like our couple session kind of stuff is what I'm thinking about more. It's like when we're trying to get those beauty shots, trying to get the romantic, photos and videos and stuff like that. It's like, I'm picturing like these beautiful mountain areas or like different beach kind of setups. And when you're able to not have to worry about the next thing, it's like you get to kind of just have a lot more fun with it. And it just feels more relaxed and a lot more intimate, like what you said. So I really see a benefit of how that could all, as far as capturing weddings go and what it could actually look like for the near future with smaller weddings, micro weddings, elopements, and things like that. I really see how vendors like ourselves that we're working together, like we can start planning for that kind of setup. And if that's what it's going to look like, we have vendors in place like ourselves that are looking at that kind of setup already. So how can we get this done, and how can we try to introduce these new ideas to brides and clients and things like that?
Yeah, I would say, like, as heartbreaking as the situation and the circumstances are, I've even seen like a shift in my clients and my brides, and focusing on what matters and the fact that they're truly married at the end of the day, and that's what it's all about. And so, Kimberly, you may can attest to that too, that you've seen, through the planning process, they've kind of had to shift. Okay, what are we really focusing on here? Despite nobody wants to give up, the whole big wedding that you've dreamed your lifetime for, but at the same time, like, you kind of see them start thinking about the sweeter, smaller, the little things.
And what I've tried, and I'm going to transition to you, Kim, for a second, because that brings up an idea. With all this chaos and with all this mess, one of the things, like, yes, you can talk to myself. I'll try to give you some guidance and all that kind of stuff. But, like, in my opinion, if you have not invested into a planner, like, now is definitely the time, because one, you could postpone a date, but then that date could get pushed again because we don't know what the situation is like still. And so it's like, in my mind, if I'm a client or if I'm a bridegroom, couple, whatever you want to call it, like in those shoes, I've already planned all this kind of stuff. I've already put all that stress into the date that we had originally planned. I need help. So it's like, when I can, I'm always pointing to a planner, and particularly Kim, because we work together a lot with like the collective and stuff. So that's a sidetrack rabbit trail point, is like being in a network of other vendors to help each other out is such a crucial part of this whole process too. For example, like what I mentioned before, Evan Lanier, another filmmaker friend, he was able to refer to me to be able to cover that live stream wedding this past Saturday. And like, there's just different ways, like if you can connect with other vendors, it's going to benefit everybody in the long run. It's not a competition thing. It's just taking care of everybody. But back on track, back to Kim, like with your perspective of stuff, like, it's got to add a whole different level of planning and all the different stuff that goes into your side of stuff.
Yeah, just like I was saying with the SOS calls, is what we're calling it. They're calling in and they're worried. They're not sure how to deal with what's going on, and no one's ever been in this situation before. So it's kind of ingrained in us as planners to be able to handle any situation that comes along, because just like on wedding days, we're supposed to handle anything that may come up spur of the moment, and our job is to think quick on our feet and get it done and move along. And it's kind of the same situation. We're just doing it virtually in this circumstance. So we are, rolling with the punches. My team and I, we've made a very conscious effort to stay up to date on everything that's going on with, COVID-19 and any guidelines that are coming out. We're staying on top of those. We want to know what's going on in the world, in our state, so we know how to best advise our clients. But part of that also goes back to, with the experience that we have as well, and the knowledge that we have in the industry. We're just combining that with what's going on with the guidelines to help our couples make the best informed decision as possible. And, it's definitely it's definitely something to where, they're leaning on us a little more than normal, which, is great, because I feel like that, we're in the industry to help, and that's absolutely what we want to do. So I definitely have a fulfillment that we are accomplishing that goal. We are helping through this crisis, although I don't wish this crisis on anyone at all, but at least during this time, we are feeling like we are helping as much as possible. And it's definitely been a different shift. But to kind of circle back, Josh, to what you were saying earlier about, are we doing things that we weren't ever doing before, or what have you. And it wasn't necessarily something that we haven't thought of before, but the coaching side of things, which we were going to go more virtual with that. That's, online, over the phone. It can be in person as well. And this time, the situation that we're in has given me the push to actually start doing that. The free time that we made in place, and then the push that we can get from the fact that we're having to stay at home right now, And it's helping our clients see the benefit of what we've been trying to put out there with the coaching and the planning, that helping them through, because they're seeing it firsthand with when they're calling with this SOS, what do we do right now, and so that's what our coaching and our planning is all about.
Yeah, that's
I would say that y'all are probably, as planners, definitely the sense of stability in the midst of all of this.
yes. That's what I was trying to get at. It's like, if you have not invested in one, it's like now is definitely the best time, because I just can't imagine trying to reprocess everything. But like that's the planner's like purpose and job and passion. Like they want to bring peace to the chaos kind of stuff and take that burden off of the clients and just let it be like a romantic experience for the wedding itself. Like that's what like their purpose is to try to make it to where it's a great experience for everybody, and they take that burden off. And it's, y'all need it. If you haven't invested in a planner, now's the time. Like that's the message of that part.
If you get nothing else from this podcast,
right.
you need a planner.
Yes, it's like,
it helps them focus on what it's supposed to be about anyway, because we're all about being present in the moment.
Right.
And it's really hard to be, if you're having all this other stress and everything else going on in the background. How can you focus on what truly matters?
Yeah.
So having someone there as your advocate to be in your back pocket, or to help be legs on the ground running, doing what needs to be done, carrying out your vision, that's what it's all about. So you can actually focus on what's important,
right,
and enjoy being a bride.
Yes, actually enjoy.
Yeah, it's basically when a planner or another vendor, we all become part of this whole team. And so if you think about it, and as in a team aspect, is like we all have our strengths and weaknesses. And so let each person play their strengths, so that way as a whole the team wins. And the team consists of the clients, the brides, grooms, the families, the friends, and then all the vendors involved. So it's like when we're able to pass that, if like, obviously if you're not a photographer, you don't want to take pictures, and you want to try to let someone else do that for planning and stuff. I don't mind some planning. Like I like ideas, I like throwing around stuff like that, but that is like, as far as logistics go, it's not my cup of tea. Like I would rather someone that is strong in that kind of point take on that. And so even as a client, like if you can come at it with that kind of mindset, is like when you hire a planner, you're letting someone that is passionate about that kind of stuff and that is really good at it do it, and you don't have to worry about it. You can just like check in and say, hey, is there anything I need to do? And then if not, you get to just go on about your day, right? So it's,
one thing that I was going to say, like Josh, you're talking about a team, and like right now as vendors and on the vendor side of things, in the midst of all this, the best thing that we can possibly do right now is support each other and, talk to clients about why it's important to continue to kind of carry your vendors with you through this as much as you possibly can. Because videography is obviously super important, photography, so that you have something back to look on, years down the road. Whereas, currently a lot of people are not going to be able to be there if this, shelter in place continues, and the limits on how many people are allowed to be present. So,
right.
I was just going to say, it's easier the earlier that you bring someone in, like a planner, so they're able to best represent you on wedding day, because they've been in charge over certain things, certain elements, and then they can just better manage the day. But going back to what you were saying, Courtney, absolutely, working as a team is very important, and it's combining the dream team, of course, is what your goal is, but just a matter of like a videographer and a photographer being able to.
I was just saying, you said dream team, and I was pointing at all of us. No.
The team being able to work together as a whole, because it's not just enough to have a planner, a videographer, a photographer. You need to have a team that knows how to work together. And Josh, that may be a topic for another time in itself, because we could really dig deep into things like that.
Right, for sure.
But I would say, like, going into this pandemic and talking to your brides about how to handle it, find out who they're working with, regardless of who the vendor team is for that particular wedding. Find out who they are, reach out to them, make sure that there's nothing that you can do to make their job easier, or vice versa. And really just, that's another way you can be there for your brides and your grooms during this time.
Kind of circling back to the main question that I asked at the beginning, which was like, what are some creative stuff that you've kicked around, or that you've not done yet, or just thought of? Some other stuff that I've done on, like, even just on my personal brand kind of stuff. I've got too many brands going on, but it's like, it's just being more active. And it's like the concept that I've tried to implement with what I'm doing now and even like kind of observing other companies doing their marketing, all the stuff, all the hustle that you're seeing that you're right now should have been stuff that should have been doing before all this broke out. So like my encouragement with that, it's not a shaming thing, but it's an encouragement to whatever that you're doing now as far as marketing goes. And I've seen so many companies hustling with their marketing side of stuff, is like continue that. Like once, we don't know when this is going to be over. So just like from here on out, like just continue that hustle. And I'm not talking about working yourself tirelessly. I'm talking about just making a point to be proactive with your time, to prioritize your time, to work on the different aspects of the company, whether it's social media or the back end kind of stuff like Courtney was talking about, the stuff that makes the company work as one big machine. Like do that stuff continuously from this point on. So I've seen a lot of collaborations, like that's part of growing and all that kind of stuff. We're seeing more people try to collaborate together. Like we said, team kind of mentality is going to take you so much further than trying to do everything on your own. So making those connections and keeping up with those relationships. I know it's hard to make those connections when you're not able to do it person to person. Like I love being able to meet a client, or as the collective, like going to our local coffee shop and having those meetings and stuff. I really miss that part, but at the same time, we have to work with what we got. So doing this podcast or doing different meetings and different chats and Zoom calls, whatever it takes, like keep connected with people, and whether it's through just private meetings or even online, in a public way. So it's like, I'm about to come out with a challenge, and like we can all try to do this as a company, but just for the Wiregrass companies, I want to challenge someone to make one post a day on their social media for like the next, month or so, or like the month of May, like make one post a day. And that's actually less than the recommended amount. The recommended amount is to post 3 times a day to each network that you're focusing on. But what I want to try to encourage that with is like, it's going to help you get consistency, and the platforms will start to try to push your content more because they're seeing that you're trying to be proactive with it, and more people engage with that kind of stuff, the better. So there's just in the marketing aspect, like I've felt more motivation to try to get things done more and take, just take a few minutes out of your day, or like plan at the beginning of the week, like you can schedule stuff out. There's different ways to get all that kind of accomplished. But I've definitely seen like a lot more companies online pushing their stuff. There's been a lot of support groups like on Facebook that have come out, like support local type stuff. I actually created one called Watch the Wiregrass, and it's made for creatives and also businesses that are doing creative work to post to that, so that we can watch and see what the Wiregrass is doing. So it's just another like spin or take of how we can market ourselves, but also just there's a lot of companies out there putting a lot of cool content out there, but not everybody's seeing it. So this is just another way to kind of collaborate with the community to try to get our stuff in front of more people's eyes. So have you guys seen any other kind of stuff that has kind of risen from this whole situation on maybe just a marketing side of stuff?
Yeah, I've seen actually a lot more people kind of sharing behind the scenes, or, what we're working on today, even if it's from your house, obviously, but just trying to build your business and let people in on a little bit more of how it runs and how it works. I would say, definitely taking this time to step out and do something that you haven't made time for, something that you were too afraid to do in the past. Ask the questions you've been afraid to ask, or put together those collaborations that you haven't just stepped out and done. I think that's a great use of time.
Yeah, so just echoing off of both of you, this is the time now to come together as a community and help each other. We all want to do that, and then we get busy with everything in the business. But this is the perfect time to come together and make a difference with what's going on around us.
So this is a segment that we're going to try to implement each week, and it's called Tip of the Week. And we're going to come up with some ideas, and maybe we might even get some ideas from our audience. But for this week, the tip of the week is to help support another vendor. This could be a photographer, a planner, videographer, caterer, DJ, anybody like that. And one way that you could do that is to actually just go to their Facebook site or even Google site and leave a review. Let clients know that they're easy to work with, that they do great work, the content is up to you, but that's such a great way. And this tip actually came from Courtney, is to support local. And so one of those ways that you could do that is to leave a review of someone that you've worked with in the past. For this next segment, we just like to talk about different plans, different ideas that we got coming up. So we're just going to introduce to you each week about something that we have coming up. So Kim, you were talking about something pretty cool. Let everybody know what you got going on.
So this week we're working on collecting photos of brides who save lives, those on the front lines in the healthcare industry. And we are collecting these photos. We want to feature them next week. We want to, thank them for everything that they're doing on the front lines, because, the majority of our clients are in the nursing field, and they're having to sacrifice their personal time, their personal health, their wedding planning process itself. And we want to highlight how thankful we are for them just by featuring them in our stories on Instagram and using the hashtag Bride Save Lives, because we are, they make up the majority of our clientele.
That's a really cool idea. I love it. That's great.
I love that.
I'm looking forward to seeing the results from that. So when that does come out, and we'll leave links to all our social media stuff, or at least our websites in the show notes. So when that happens, be following Kim's pages, so that way you can be part of that and take part of sharing that awesome campaign.
Yeah, if you're out there listening and you're a bride, or you've been recently married, maybe a year or so, feel free, whether you're a client or not, feel free to send us a photo. You can send it to info@kimberlysmithevents.com, and we will definitely use that in our feature for next week.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. Courtney, what's up with you?
So I know I mentioned earlier, we are in the works of planning some mini sessions. So be on the lookout for those kind of announcements over the next few weeks. But as of when we hear from Governor Ivey, and just kind of following guidelines and making sure that we're aware and stay in that social distancing, we are opening back up portrait sessions and currently booking those. We actually booked quite a few yesterday. So if you're interested in that, just kind of be on the lookout for any of those announcements coming soon.
That's cool. As far as things going on my end, I continue to work on that documentary effort for the Wiregrass of how we're all handling the coronavirus situation. So that's on my personal brand, which is at Joshua Bain. You can pretty much type that into any of the social networks, and that's what it is. And I've put out a few videos already. That's been pretty cool. There was probably, and this is going to be another podcast with another podcast show that I'm trying to plan to get going. So that's, I guess, something else that's coming up on the rise, is another podcast with a friend of mine, like James Champion. He's the other photographer that I'm working with to try to do some of this documentary effort. Randy Prine is another, he's like the drone guy in this area. So with the three of us, we've been working on collecting stuff, but James, the Saturday night before Easter Sunday, he had this idea. It's like, what we should do is go out and get all the empty parking lots of all the churches on Easter Sunday, because it's just gonna be empty. And I was like, you're onto something, and I think that's a really cool idea. Long story short, it turned into more of a short film kind of style, because as the thoughts and ideas started coming, I pictured so many different aspects of it, and I wanted people to kind of feel what it was like on Sunday, Easter Sunday, during the coronavirus. And it was such a bizarre experience just to caption that kind of stuff, because we're going around all these different churches that are normally packed full on Sunday, and usually Easter is the most attended Sunday of the calendar year for any church. And so to see the polar opposite, seeing them completely empty. Some churches, I don't even think were meeting, or I don't know if their doors were closed or if it's just like one person there, but some churches didn't even have a car in the parking lot. Then others just had like their skeleton crew in place, like some of the musicians, the pastor, and things like that. And so we were able to start at Ridgecrest, did the sunrise with the steeple. It just turned out to be a really epic shot. But then as the day went on, I remember my mom, which actually goes to Ridgecrest, and she's a widow. And so usually she's used to being with like a multitude of people on Sunday alone, but then Easter Sunday would even be more people. But this year she was alone at home worshiping in her living room. So like there's like a big impact on that, and I think that really expressed that. I also have this spoken word artist that she could just come up with something on the fly. So I called her, or I messenger her, and she came up with this spoken word that was just like mind blowing in my opinion. It just went way beyond what I could expect. So like all the different elements and being able to capture stuff like that has been like, it's helped ignite a creative fire in me because I want to capture more stuff like that. There's one, there's a lot of cool stuff like support local things. There's a lot of awesome videos that have come out from that, but I want to capture it in like in a cinematic way, in a way that like captures the emotion of what's going on. So all that to say is like I'm still trying to work on getting some different videos and different content that helps capture like what the feelings and emotions are with what's going on with this whole situation, whether it's a small business or just a regular person, teachers, law enforcement, and things like that. So that's what I got going on like side project kind of stuff. I want to capture what's going on now before the state starts to reopen. So I'm kind of in a time crunch at the moment too. But be looking out for that kind of stuff. That's what I'm working on, along with all the other, finishing up 2 more weddings and I'll be done with all my edits. So big wedding that happened just before the lockdown, and then the live stream wedding, which we have to do a cleaned up version of the ceremony. So that's what's going on my end. Question of the week, the question that we want to challenge you with is like, what are some creative ways that you have not implemented into your business yet? And so let us know in the comments, reach out to us on social media. We'll leave all the links that you need down below in the video show notes. So that way you can add those comments and we'll read those off next show. Thank you for joining us this week. We've had a lot of fun talking about the different ways that we can help benefit our businesses. We want to hear from you. So if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, definitely hit us up in the comments, or you can reach out to us on our social media sites. Send us a direct message, whatever you like to do. We want to hear from you and how this coronavirus has affected your business and maybe some ways that might benefit some other companies too. Again, all the links that you need are down below in the video notes at anything we refer to. We appreciate you watching or listening, depending on what platform that you're consuming, and we'll catch you next week. Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.